December night. The city lay beneath a shroud of darkness, the kind that made streetlights flicker like exhausted fireflies, and the wind howled through the empty streets like a haunting melody. Marcus Brown stood at the bus stop, his breath visible in the chilly air as he awaited the number 47 bus, his weary body a canvas of sore muscles and worn shoes. After a grueling 12-hour shift at the warehouse, every ache reminded him of the relentless grind of life, a life where hard work often felt like a treadmill, always in motion, yet getting nowhere. He didn't despise hard work. He loathed how it never seemed sufficient. Bills piled high on the kitchen table, rent crept higher each month, and his mother's medical expenses loomed, a constant reminder of his daily struggles. While luxury cars zipped past him, their occupants oblivious to his existence, he couldn't help but ponder the stark inequalities that painted his world. Finally, the bus arrived, its doors creaking open like an old book. Marcus climbed aboard, nodding to the driver, the faint warmth inside a temporary refuge. The seats were frayed, the heater barely functional, but this bus was where he could escape, a moving sanctuary where dreams were free to roam. The bus that night was nearly empty, populated by a few souls, an old man mumbling to himself, a nurse slumped against the window, and a middle-aged man Marcus had never seen before. The stranger was clad in a sharp gray suit, holding a leather briefcase that seemed to encapsulate a world far removed from Marcus's own. When the bus jolted to a stop, the briefcase slipped from the man's grasp, spilling papers across the floor. Without a second thought, Marcus stood up, gathered the scattered documents, and returned them with a small smile. "Thanks," the man said, straightening his tie with a hint of nervousness. "No problem," Marcus replied, curious now. "Name's David." The man introduced himself. "I work downtown at an investment firm." "Marcus," he said, feeling the weight of their contrasting worlds. David's life revolved around financial charts and boardroom meetings, while Marcus's was grounded in the arduous reality of loading trucks under flickering lights. Their initial conversation was polite, revolving around mundane topics like the weather and city traffic. But as the bus rumbled forward, the atmosphere shifted. David inquired about Marcus's work, and something in Marcus stirred. Perhaps it was the late hour, or the rarity of being asked. He shared his struggles, his mother's health, his little sister's aspirations for college, and the neighborhood they lived in, a place that often felt like an afterthought to city planners. David listened attentively, his curiosity growing as Marcus painted vivid images of life in his community, where streetlights were often out and opportunities felt like urban myths. "You know," David admitted, "I sometimes drive past those neighborhoods. I never realized how different life is there." Marcus smiled, a blend of understanding and acceptance. That's the thing about inequality. It's invisible when it's not yours. As the bus glided past shuttered shops and graffiti-stained walls, Marcus shared the story of his childhood friend Jamal, a brilliant boy whose dreams were stifled by circumstance. Jamal had hoped to be an engineer, but when his father lost his job, he dropped out of school to help pay the bills, only to find himself entangled in a system that seemed to forget him. They called it justice, but it wasn't. "It was just another way the system forgets people like us," Marcus said, his voice heavy with unspoken grief. David's expression softened, and he shifted in his seat. "I used to believe that if you worked hard enough, you'd succeed. Hard work matters, but when the ladder's missing rungs, some people never get to climb," Marcus replied, his gaze turned toward the window, lost in thoughts of lost possibilities. As the bus approached Marcus's stop, he gathered his belongings and prepared to disembark. David's voice halted him. "Do you think things will ever change?" Marcus's smile was faint but genuine. "Hope's the only thing that keeps me getting on this bus every night." Outside, the wind bit sharply at his face. He spotted a small boy shivering at the corner, alone in a threadbare hoodie. Without hesitation, Marcus handed him his extra sandwich before making his way home, a small act of kindness that felt monumental in that moment. A week later, the bus hummed along the route once more, and Marcus found David seated in the same spot. "I've been thinking about what you said. Your friend, your sister, your neighborhood. I can't shake it off," David admitted, a hint of determination in his tone. "Guess the city looks different when you really look," Marcus chuckled, intrigued by the change in David's demeanor. "I work for a firm that handles millions daily. We donate to charities, but it's all numbers on a screen. I want to do something real. Start small, fund local programs, scholarships, training," David announced, his eyes aflame with purpose. "Are you serious?" Marcus raised an eyebrow, astonished. David smiled back. "You'd be surprised what one conversation can start." As months rolled on, and winter melted into spring, a quiet transformation began to unfold. One morning, his sister burst into the kitchen, waving a letter. "Marcus, I got the scholarship!" she exclaimed, eyes bright with excitement. Staring at the paper in disbelief, Marcus learned it was a full tuition covered by a new city program, initiated by David's firm. "Thank you," Marcus called David that night. "I don't know how to thank you." "Don't thank me. Thank yourself for telling the truth," David replied, the sincerity in his voice resonating deeply with Marcus. For the first time in years, a warmth radiated within Marcus, an ember of hope igniting into a flame. The scholarship breathed new life into the community. The library reopened on weekends, a community center began to offer evening classes, and slowly the city began to change. One summer evening, as Marcus strolled past City Hall, a crowd had gathered, a vibrant mosaic of workers, students, and parents holding signs proclaiming, "Fair pay now. Equal schools, one city, one people." Faces he recognized from the warehouse and his sister's school filled his vision. A stir of purpose ignited within him. He stepped into the crowd, his presence a silent declaration of solidarity. That night, the protest became a story on the news, the cameras capturing a glimpse of Marcus, a sign in his hand that read, "Hope lives here." David, watching from his office, paused at the sight, realizing how profoundly that single bus ride had transformed both his life and Marcus's. A month later, Marcus found himself on a stage, a podium before him, heart racing. He wasn't a politician, just a warehouse worker who had traversed this path for too long. Yet when he began to speak, his words flowed with clarity and passion. "I'm not here to blame," he stated firmly. "I'm here to remind this city that talent doesn't just live in glass towers. It lives in the neighborhoods you drive past without seeing, in the kids fixing broken things because they can't afford new ones." His eyes swept across the room, landing on familiar faces, officials, teachers, and among them, David. "Hope isn't a gift, it's a bridge. You build it by seeing people, by believing in them," he declared, the weight of his message settling like a blanket in the room. As time passed, the number 47 bus evolved into a sleek electric model, but Marcus still found a way to ride it occasionally. His uniform had transformed too. Now, he wore a badge that read Community Program Coordinator, a title that reflected the foundation born from that fateful conversation. Every day, he helped young people like Jamal, guiding them through grant applications, empowering them to start small businesses, teaching them that their stories mattered. "Evening, Mr. Brown." "Same seat?" The driver greeted him warmly as he boarded one evening, a smile lighting his face. "Some things never change," Marcus replied with a laugh, settling into the familiar window seat. As the city glided by, he noticed it was not yet perfect, nor entirely fixed, but it was alive, bursting with potential. In a high-rise downtown, David sat late at night, his briefcase replaced by community plans and funding charts. A photo of Marcus, his sister, and a group of smiling scholarship recipients perched on his desk, a testament to the power of connection. The tale of Marcus transcends his singular existence. It embodies the countless Americans who rise before dawn, ride the same buses, and persist through life's challenges, even when the world appears skewed against them. It speaks of the invisible laborers, janitors, drivers, cashiers, nurses, who often go unnoticed. This story underscores the profound impact a single act of kindness, a genuine conversation, can have, rippling from a bus seat to a boardroom, from one man's struggle to an entire community's resurgence. Inequality doesn't vanish with speeches or policies. It dissipates when empathy becomes habitual, when those who possess privilege listen, and when those unheard are finally provided a voice. As the narrative draws to a close, envision the city lights sliding past a bus window, the deep hum of the engine and the soft breath of a weary worker. Somewhere, someone akin to Marcus still rides home, clutching onto dreams that exceed his paycheck. Elsewhere, another like David gazes out from his high-rise window, contemplating how to rectify the disparities he witnesses. The world is not divided into merely good and bad people, but into those who see and those who remain blind. Sometimes it only takes one ride home, one shared story between two strangers to ignite the flame of awareness. Because change often whispers, carried softly within the rumble of an old city bus, bearing hope through the shadows.